There are few pieces of clothing in the world that spark as much debate as a simple head covering. For some, it is a symbol of faith. For others, it is misunderstood as a symbol of oppression. It appears in news headlines, political arguments, social media battles. People discuss it, criticize it, defend it. Yet millions of women wear it every day by choice. So what is the truth? Why do Muslim women wear the hijab? And how did a piece of fabric become one of the most discussed symbols on earth? To understand the answer, we have to go back. Far back, long before modern politics, long before television debates, long before social media, to a world where women's status looked very different from what many people imagine today. 7th century Arabia was a land of tribes, trade routes, and constant social change. In that world, a new religious message began spreading across the desert. The message would eventually become Islam. And among its teachings was a concept that would shape the lives of millions of women for centuries. Modesty, but not in the way many people assume. Because from the beginning, Islamic teachings on modesty were not directed only at women. The Quran first addresses men. It instructs believing men to lower their gaze and guard their modesty. Then it addresses women with similar principles. The focus was not simply clothing, it was behavior, character, dignity, self-respect, a complete way of carrying oneself in society. Yet over time, one aspect of these teachings became especially visible: the hijab. Today, the word hijab is often used to describe a headscarf worn by Muslim women. But linguistically, the Arabic word carries broader meanings connected to covering, separation, and modesty. The physical head covering became the most recognizable expression of that idea. And that is where the questions begin. Why cover the hair? Why wear something that immediately identifies you as Muslim? Why choose something that can attract attention in a world that often values the opposite? The answer is not the same for every woman. And that is an important fact often lost in public discussions. Across different countries, cultures, and generations, Muslim women describe different reasons. Some wear it as an act of worship. Some see it as a daily reminder of their relationship with God. Others view it as a statement of identity, a visible declaration of who they are and what they believe. For many, the hijab is not experienced as a burden. It is experienced as a commitment, a personal choice rooted in faith. But the story becomes more complex, because if the hijab were simply a piece of clothing, the debate would have ended long ago. Instead, it became something bigger, much bigger. In some parts of the world, women have fought for the right to wear it. In other places, women have fought against being forced to wear it. And that distinction matters a great deal. Islamic teachings emphasize intention. An act of worship has meaning when it comes from sincere belief. That is why many Muslim scholars argue that faith cannot be reduced to compulsion. The conversation is not only about the cloth itself, it is about choice, agency, conviction, and personal belief. Yet misunderstandings continue. Many people assume that every woman who wears a hijab is forced. The reality is far more complicated. Millions of Muslim women live in societies where no law requires them to wear it, yet they continue to do so. Students, doctors, scientists, teachers, athletes, business leaders, mothers, daughters. Women from different backgrounds making different decisions for different reasons. Some begin wearing it as teenagers. Some adopt it later in life. Some wear it after years of spiritual reflection. Others struggle with the decision for decades. Behind every hijab is an individual story, a personal journey, a private conversation between a person and her faith. And perhaps that is what many outsiders never see. Because public arguments often focus on the visible cloth, not the invisible reasons. The headlines discuss politics. The individual experiences are rarely heard. Imagine walking into a room where everyone immediately knows something about your beliefs before you say a single word. That is the reality many hijab-wearing women live with every day. Sometimes it leads to admiration, sometimes curiosity, sometimes misunderstanding, and sometimes discrimination. Research conducted in various countries has documented cases where visibly Muslim women face social prejudice, employment barriers, or public hostility. For many, the hijab becomes more than a religious symbol. it becomes a test, a daily challenge, a visible expression of conviction under pressure. Yet despite those challenges, millions continue to wear it. Why? Because for them, the value of the practice outweighs the difficulty. Faith often asks people to remain committed even when commitment is not easy. This is not unique to Islam. History is filled with people who publicly express their beliefs despite criticism or hardship. The hijab exists within that larger human story, a story about identity, belonging, conviction, and purpose. Of course, not all Muslim women wear hijab, and not all Muslim women interpret religious obligations in exactly the same way. The global Muslim community spans countless cultures, languages, and traditions. Experiences differ, opinions differ, personal decisions differ. But one fact remains undeniable. The hijab cannot be understood through stereotypes alone. It is too personal, too complex, too deeply connected to individual faith and experience. What looks like a simple piece of fabric from the outside often carries a lifetime of meaning for the person wearing it. A reminder of God, a symbol of modesty, a declaration of identity, a commitment renewed every morning. And perhaps that is the greatest misunderstanding of all. The world often sees the cloth. The woman wearing it sees the purpose behind it. In the end, the question may not be why millions of Muslim women wear the hijab. The deeper question is,